Emotionally unavailable.
Welcome to Emotionally Unavailable, the podcast where we dive deep into the world of emotional availability and intimacy. I'm your host, Melissa Hepner, and I can't tell you how excited I am to have you join me on this journey of self-discovery and connection. Whether you're navigating the complexities of relationships or exploring your own emotional landscape, this podcast is here to inspire, empower, and entertain. So get cozy and let's explore the depths of human emotions together. Hi guys, happy Monday. Can't believe it's almost April. That's kind of cray-cray. Okay, so today's guest is Amy. Gosh, you know what? I didn't ask her how to pronounce her last name. Sorry, Amy. I think it's Lenius, Lenius. Amy is the director of group coaching at Next Level University. She is also a professional speaker, event coordinator, MC, and Next Level certified holistic self-improvement coach. She came to this world of personal development, basically, after dealing with chronic illness from a young age and going through the journey of learning to heal, not only inside, but also outside. Her healing journey led her to discover and embody the abundance of a holistic lifestyle. She has learned the power of understanding the importance of your internal environment and how it reflects outwardly, and how your external environment deeply affects your internal world. We had such a beautiful conversation. If I were to summarize it, I would say really just about the impossible standards that we can hold ourselves to, and like how to grow your confidence and your self-worth, and be more in alignment. So I'm pretty tired and my allergies are still killing me, so I think I'm going to leave it at that. But I did love this conversation so much, and I'm incredibly grateful for meeting Amy and the other folk. You may remember Kevin a few weeks ago. He was also from Next Level University, and I have Alan from there. I've already recorded with him. That will be released, I think, sometime in April. So anyway, seems like a really good program. If you want to check it out. I don't know. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I love you all. Thank you so much for listening. But just because somebody was worried the last time I was this tired on an intro, I'm definitely not tired in a bad way. I'm just taking really good care of myself. So my body is a little bit run down from literally allergy hell in Oklahoma. Including having to go get allergy eye drops. Oh shit. Sorry. And but I'm good. I'm actually really good. And yeah. So just really busy because I have the Empowerment Exchange coming up this weekend. I believe this Monday, the day this airs, is going to be the last day for 2-for-1 general admission. And you're not going to want to miss it. Just really quick, I'm going to be talking about what I talk about on here all the time, basically, and utilizing my new framework of quiet the noise, connect to self, embody the light. Then we've got Natasha, who's from the March Music Collection, going to talk about using music in your healing and just being more connected to yourself and whatever. And we have Lauren, who's going to be talking about using human design to help you achieve and kind of have the life that you want to live. And we have Michaela, who is going to talk about how spirituality can improve your existence on this earth. So that's a very short way to say that, but I am very excited about this. And then I'm also writing a keynote speech for something that I am flying to Seattle for in April, okay? So I've got all that, and I'm also now posting on YouTube, which is actually quite the pain in the ass. So that's taking up time. And I'm just kind of feeling a little perpetually behind right now, but that's okay. That's okay. So anyways, you're going to love Amy. I can't wait for you to hear this conversation, and I'll just let you get to it now. Here's me and Amy.
Emotionally unavailable.
Hey,
Hi.
so cute. I love your hair. Oh, thank you. I had a late night shower, to be fully honest, and ended up just putting it in braids because I was too lazy to dry my hair and I wanted to go to bed. And so it got a nice little wave going. So I was happy with it. Thank
It
you.
looks really good. Oh my God. If I had done that, I'd wake up and be like, oh, really probably should have dried that. Well, it's so nice to meet you. I was reading your profile again, and it's funny because God, I'm being so loud already. It's funny because like a while ago, I was like putting it out to the universe, like just send me the people meant for me.
Mm.
And so when I was reading your profile, I just don't think it's a coincidence for you to come along about 5 days or so after I was like, yeah, like this is just another way for me to just accept and embrace who I am. And like I've been doing that, but it's funny how like each time you have another aha where you're like, oh, that was me stuck in perfectionism because it's so sneaky. It's so sneaky. And just like I was recording with someone the other day and I was like, yeah, like I think maybe that's the point. Like, I'm not supposed to try to keep avoiding pain, which sounds so silly, but especially for a show called Emotionally Unavailable, because I've worked really hard to confront all of these things, to be vulnerable with myself, with others. But again, I just keep finding ways that I'm avoiding, that I'm being a perfectionist, that I'm shit talking myself, and I don't view it that way in the moment. It's in reflection afterwards. I'm like, okay, I know. And to say like, yeah, we shouldn't try to avoid pain. It's so obvious, but the way I felt that revelation is so much different than I could explain it. I know you get it, but it was just like I, in my perfectionism, kept thinking, well, I'm going to get to this destination, and the destination was for each different little thing I was working on, right? Like I could say, oh, there, healing never stops. There's not going to be a destination. Like you're just going to keep going. Okay, got that part. Oh, I'm never probably going to get to a place where I don't lose my shit sometimes. Okay, not a destination. We're just going to keep growing. But this was another way that I saw that I was still looking for a destination. I think I truly believed that once you reach some level of enlightenment, you don't feel pain anymore. And now I can laugh at that because it's preposterous, but I'm working really hard to just be like, it is what it is, man, because we grow the most through those painful moments. So like I don't want to even subconsciously avoid anymore.
Yeah, well, that's going to accelerate anything you're doing because I think there's kind of almost that like toxic positivity out there where like if it's
Mhm.
hard, it's not meant for you. If it doesn't feel right, it's not meant for you. It's like, no, you're going to have all of the emotions within the thing that's still meant for you.
Well, and the things that mean the most to
Yeah.
you are going to put you right in that place of imposter syndrome, just like worthiness issues, limiting beliefs, all of the things. And uh, it's just part of it. And
Yes.
I fucking hate toxic positivity. It gets on my nerves because I was a victim to that for a really long time. And then now it's incredibly triggering to me to see, what's really triggering? To see people in this space that do it. Like, I'm not going to name names, but someone that I really liked having on my show, the next week, I was listening to their show and they were like, yeah, I'm going to shame you right now because blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you need some shame. Okay. As a person who literally had just overcome my shame, I was like, ooh, that's a bad word for me. I do not have anything to do with anything they're about anymore because I'm like, you're still in your masculine if this is the way you're speaking to people. And that's not my vibe right now.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Yeah, I think what happens is people fall into that toxic positivity. And then when they aren't succeeding in the things they want to succeed in, they think, oh, I must be doing something wrong. There's something
Mhm.
wrong with me because I can't keep up with this love and light and everything's great because I feel like shit today. And
Yes.
people need to hear that that's okay. On growth
Yes.
journeys, especially, you are going to have so many highs and lows because some of it is so empowering and so exciting, and other stuff is messy. because
Yeah.
you're uncovering layers of you, like perfectionism, like crappy self-talk, and why that happens. And like there's so much muck in healing, and that's good. So we
Mhm.
need to encourage all of those emotions and how it's important to feel them. And it's important not to avoid what's making us feel kind of yucky, because that's something in us that we need to work on and heal, or at least understand and accept.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I love that you said messy, because I remember the first time, and like, because sometimes if like there's a coach in a specific area of relationships or something and I'm going through it, I'll be like, so today I'm going to be your client and you didn't know that, but I'm going to ask you for free advice. Thank you. And so I had this girl on and I was asking her questions. And by the end of the episode, I was like, oh, you know what I think I was actually upset about is the fact that I didn't handle that perfectly, that it got a little messy. That because I continue to have this idea that healthy people know exactly what to do and execute it beautifully. And I know that this version of me knows that's ridiculous. I know that. But in those moments where you're just trying to find your way through something that's a little yuck and you kind of just don't know what to do because you are too far advanced to do what you used to do. So it's not that, but like now we're transcending to this new level and I don't really know how to do that. And so, yeah, it got messy when I got into an argument with my husband and I hated myself a little bit for it without even realizing that that's truly what I was holding on to was the conversation, not even what caused the conversation, but my behavior in the conversation. And I'll let you know, I was like really good, even comparatively to old standards. Like I didn't get like hypercritical. I didn't anything. Well, first of all, I think this is a fucking aha moment, but I think I was uncomfortable with being really firm in what I felt I needed. And I'm not comfortable with that. So that got me. But then also I wasn't like sweet and good girls have to be sweet. So, I get really caught up in some of that sometimes. And I'm just so glad to get to continue to have conversations with people like you around this, because you're so right. People have to hear this stuff to know that it's okay. And especially if your entire Instagram is curated by people who aren't saying the truth. And that is exactly why I have chosen to be 100% authentic on here. I talk about my financial struggles in this entrepreneur space. I talk about everything because I don't ever fucking want to give someone the impression that any of this is easy. It's not. Is it worth it? 1,000%, but it's not easy. But I mean, the other wasn't easy either. You just have to pick your heart, right?
That's right. Oh my gosh. I just love you, by the
Well,
way.
thanks.
I did a post on that the other day about how we not only need to share our hard moments, but be okay with them. And how if people aren't sharing the struggle, even in this entrepreneurial journey and all of these other things, they're either lying to themselves or they're delusional.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go on and compare on social media to other people's journeys that are only showing the highlights of those journeys, it's such a self-worth hit, because we instantly go with, well, what is wrong with me?
Why can't I? What is going on?
Yes.
Like, did you ever in that space? I think I really struggled with feeling like I must not deserve, which I think is old religious trauma. But like, I think that's really where it hit me, is like, oh, like, okay, I probably just have done too many wrong things. Like maybe I just don't deserve that. I mean, I had to really work through that, but I mean, obviously it's no one else's fault how we're perceiving and receiving, but like I'm disappointed in the people who are talking in the manner that we're talking and who are spiritual and still lie to people and still also ask them to be something they're not, and also get really in their masculine and talk shit. Like I don't like that. And I don't, I guess it makes me feel afraid, because I'm like, God, who fucking can you trust if, but I mean, again, we're all human, we're all flawed. This is everybody's journey and I'm not going to take anyone else's stuff personally, but it's disappointing. It really is.
It is. And honestly, it's reckless. It's reckless
Yes.
to be trying to guide someone on a journey if you are not leading by example. you're going to
I
hurt
agree.
a lot of people, whether that's your intention or not. I
Right.
think the industry teaches us that our front facing has to be a certain way to look successful, and we can't help people if we don't look successful or act a certain way. And it's such a reckless mentality to have, because the second someone has a hard day, they're going to think there's something wrong with them and that this journey is not for them. And at the end of the day, that is the opposite of what is true.
Yes, because I have PMDD and currently have PMS. This week hasn't been pretty. It hasn't. I've been a total fucking bitch to my husband.
Yeah.
He's the one who gets it all. Poor guy. He gets every ounce of my shit. But I've been decent with the kids. They get on my nerves, but like it's not been so bad. So I'm like, sorry, honey. Like you're the only one. I've been a bitch to, so just take it, I guess. But like we have a full moon lunar eclipse coming up Friday, right? Well, because my fucking period has started syncing with the full moon, I have PMS before every full moon now, right?
Absolutely.
And God, it pisses me off. It's 11:11 right now and where I am. But it pisses me off because I want to do manifesting and stuff, but I'm in a mood. And so I'm like, meh, what's the fucking point? You know, all the stuff that PMDD will say to you, and every month now for the last like 3 or 4 months since it's synced up with the full moon, I'm like, I'm just not into the manifesting right now because I my brain is not where I want it to be. That's like a full-time job during PMS for me, is to make sure I'm not up here overthinking, getting my feelings hurt over stupid shit. I really have rejection sensitivity all the time, but like during PMS, you look at me the wrong way and I'm like, I knew it. I knew I was not worth it. I knew it.
Yep, I'm the worst. Yes. Well, what's really beautiful, if we ever want to frame this to your husband that way, you can say, I feel the safest being my craziest with you. You get all of this because I feel safe giving it to you. And that's actually like, it sucks for them. But honestly, we tend to be the most, I don't like to use the word crazy, but let's use it. We get a little crazy, and we tend to be the most crazy with the people we feel the safest with, because we know that they're not going to take it too personally or lash back out at us or all of these other things. So when our husbands can be our space for that, it's actually a really beautiful thing.
Yeah. And I mean, I know that some weeks are god awful for him, but overall he's really he takes it like a champ, man. I mean, so when he's going through his own shit, he's kind of like, about to leave this house for a little bit. I mean, but he like is the calmest person I've ever met in my whole life. So it is very safe for me to be like, because he's not going to say a word back. And that's the thing. You talk back to me when I'm escalated already. And, whether it's rational or not, I'm going to start bitching. And that I just don't want to go down the road. So I'll just say something shitty. And then every night I have to be like, I'm sorry, I was a bitch today, but I mean, I'm learning to forgive that. I really am.
Yeah. And he's learned not to personalize it.
Yes.
Which is wonderful. Which is really
actually,
wonderful.
The show has really helped in that, because he listens to me and hears my experience, and he's like, oh, it really has nothing to do with it. Like, you're just going through your shit, and so the show's been a gift. I mean, it's nice that he listens. That's a great way for him to show up for me, is to listen to my show. But also it's really helped us because he understands me, and he understands that I hate myself when I do that stuff. I don't want to be that way to anyone, let alone you, but like it gonna happen, and I'm learning to just be okay with it.
Yeah, and it's going to get better and better and better the more you're aware of it. You said earlier in the beginning that you are still in the moment, but then you reflect on it afterwards and you're like, oh, that wasn't my best self. I know I could have done something a little different there. That is even the first step. It's not about being perfect in the moment. What even is that? Perfect is garbage. But it's about the reframe of, oh, I reflected on this incident. I know where I could have done a little bit better. And each time you'll get closer to actually getting better in the moment. Mm-hmm. I think when we learn something new, or we go through these growths, or we uncover some layers, we think, oh, now I'm going to get it right in the moment. Yeah. That is not how it works. You've learned this new skill. You've become aware of this new skill, I should say, but learning it and actually making it habitual takes time. It takes integration. It takes reflection and consciousness, and it takes getting closer and closer to that in the moment reaction. And I think that takes time. And again, someone's going to look at that and be like, oh, I didn't do that thing that I said I was going to do when I'm in this moment again. And I'm reflecting on it now. It's like, I suck. This thing must not be for me. I can't do it.
Right. Yes, I was just talking to a client about that last night. You're so right.
You're not giving yourself the grace of time and integration takes time, and I think that's like one of the
Yeah.
most unsexy things someone can say nowadays, is that this takes time. Because how often do we see, oh, fix your life in 3 days, or make millions in my 24-hour blah blah blah? It's like, oh my gosh.
Yes, and integration
No.
is hard because if you've done something the same way for a long time,
Yes.
but also I think I just got to a place where I realized, like, I'm creating some really unreasonable expectations for myself, from myself, for others. If I think for 1 second for the rest of my life, I'm never going to behave like that again. And I think this is where, in relationships specifically, we get our feelings hurt really bad because, and I know, like, if somebody agrees to something for me, I have a really big betrayal wound. And so to me, if you said, I'm not going to do that again, that was an oath that you took. And when you don't follow through, I feel the ultimate betrayal. And I mean, it can be the most minute thing, but that was something that I worked really hard to learn and understand, that, oh, okay, yeah, that was just expectations and whatever. But I'm never going to promise again to not do those things. I'm going to lose it on my kids sometimes, and I'm going to be a bitch to my husband sometimes, and I'm going to unknowingly make someone feel uncomfortable in a social situation. Like, all the things that we do as humans that I don't know, somewhere made a vow I wasn't going to do ever again because I've reached a level of enlightenment. I mean, it is funny, but like, I really thought that. And now I'm learning, like, nope, that was the point, to get to the point where you could embrace all of this. And I think so many of us are like afraid that means we're just like, oh, carte blanche, like, well, you do whatever the fuck you want. You're good how you are. And I'm like, yes. And also we could just, like, it doesn't mean that you're not going to continue to try. It just means, like, you're going to be okay with who you are no matter what.
Yeah, you're going to be okay with who you are and what you uncover along the way. And sometimes that takes time. It's easy to say, oh no, I'm going to be okay with that. But some stuff gets really yucky and messy, and it's like, oh, that's hard to look at. And learning to accept something within ourselves can actually be really challenging. But it is a beautiful state once you can get there. And that is going to happen as you grow and excel. You're also going to uncover layers at hopefully an equal rate. I mean, one's always going to be more in momentum. Sometimes we're in more of an external phase. Sometimes we're more in an introspective phase. And when we hit a ceiling externally, it's like, oh, something's in here now. I got to fix something in here. I got to look at something in here. And then it'll kind of excel again. It's like 2 feet. And if you're only doing external things, you're going to start walking in circles. If you're only doing the internal work and not taking inspired action, you're going to go in circles again. Because some people just love the inner stuff. They love it, but then they don't understand why they're not achieving their goals externally. You need both. You need both. You need the internal stuff, and you need to be able to be accountable and do sustainable, aligned action as well externally. And then you start moving forward. You stop walking in circles.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I think it's really important for people to understand the concept of spiritual bypassing, and that you really can't, because enlightenment and emotional attunement are 2 different things. And you got to get to a place where you can do both, where you can really tune in to this human part of you and know why you are feeling what you're feeling. It maybe not in the moment, but getting to the place where you understand your reactions and timing and all of the things, but also to understand whatever your belief system is, higher purpose, your passions, even just like laws of attraction. But you can't, like, bypass the part where you go, oh, I was wounded in that area and someone just got me right there in that wound. I think that's been the biggest benefit for me, is to learn, okay, I know what that hit. Now I'm still figuring out why certain things bring certain emotions out of me, but I'm much less uncomfortable with all of it, obviously. But it's always such a surprise when something's uncovered, because it seems like it's the same themes over and over, but like it's a new piece. And I love it. It's invigorating, really, but it's also like really again? I thought I got this one.
I hate that I had to find out this way that I still need some work here.
Exactly. Yes, because like yesterday I was like, okay, I'm feeling insecure today. That's what this is. I'm feeling a little insecure and I'm wanting some reassurance. How can I reassure myself? You know, because God, on those days before, I had no way of offering any assurance to myself because I was like, oh, well, I mean, you're just kind of a piece of shit. So, you know, if you could just figure that out, everything else will be better. And now, like, I don't know. You can't make people understand what self-love and acceptance really feels like. I try really hard because, man, it's the best. It's the best ever. But I mean, that's my go-to for reassurance now is like, I have a few key phrases that I'm like, people choose me because I choose myself. Nothing external of me changes my worth or value as a human, you know, just things like that. And it just gets you in that energy again. And you're like, yeah, I am good. Like, I'm good and I'm valuable and I'm worthy. It doesn't matter. Like, those things don't change any of that. And I think especially with like religious trauma for me specifically, I mean, I was raised pretty like fundamentalist just because I live in Oklahoma. And so there really is no way to practice here without fundamentalism, you know? And it was so much about never being good enough that, you know, that you cannot be worthy enough. So stop trying, but also do your best to be worthy, even though you're never going to be, you know,
Yeah,
and it was just
never going to
so
be
hard.
good enough.
Yeah,
Never gonna be good enough.
because that's the way this was all designed. So
Yeah.
like, you know, just don't fret, but also you got to try really hard to be good enough.
Yes. Yeah, I find a lot of people with religious backgrounds and religious trauma, it's like building their self-worth from the ground up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's such an important journey because it's that I don't feel worthy of any of this. I don't feel worthy of striving for more. I don't feel worthy of, even some people struggle, especially women. I don't feel worthy of becoming healthier. I don't feel worthy of, and I know when we say it out loud, it doesn't sound like, it sounds ridiculous to say. Of course, everyone logically feels like they're worthy of feeling healthy, but there's pieces in the back of your mind that are like, no, you're not.
Yeah.
And so learning to build self-worth, true self-worth, foundational, stable self-worth, which also embodies self-love, self-respect, all of that in there. But self-worth it's like a superpower. Like you're saying, the more you develop it, the more different you show up in the world, the more you show up for yourself. It's this beautiful and challenging journey, but it is so worth it. It is so worth it to start running your life through a filter of, does this person, this activity, this thing increase or decrease my self-worth? And some people don't know what self-worth feels like. So that's hard for them. So then I switch the narrative to respect. Do I respect myself more or less after hanging out with this person?
Ooh, I like that.
Yeah. Or just, how do I feel after doing this thing? And if it's not great, okay, now we reflect. Was it a core value in conflict? Was it poking your core wound in some way? And this is where proactive uncovering of you, yourself, and who you are is so powerful, because if you know your core values, if you uncover what those are within yourself, if you know your core wound, it's going to teach you to navigate the world in this different way instead of having it unconsciously navigate you in detrimental ways.
Absolutely. Well, and that is what my former life looked like. And I lived in a constant state of survival because I didn't know how to regulate at all. And my nervous system was so out of whack. And I mean, I survived a very extensive history of childhood trauma. So I just did my best in adulthood, like with no information, you know? And whenever I got to uncovering, because I was ashamed at how often I felt betrayal because it didn't make sense to me. I was like, why does, like, the dumbest stuff. I know what it felt like all the time was like my husband not taking my side. That was a really big one. But I'd be like, but that doesn't make sense. Like, I don't know why that's what's coming up right now. Why? You're just a loser. You know, it would just start all this stuff. And then once I really understood how the wounds were created, what specifically created each of these wounds, then I was like, oh, and also it doesn't have to make sense to me now. Like whenever something comes up, I don't have to judge it or analyze it. I just have to go, oh, that hit the space. Here's how I can move differently next time to make sure that I can handle that a little better or whatever. But
Yes.
that was the key right there, was uncovering all of it so that I could have an awareness.
Absolutely. And so when you talk about this betrayal wound and thing, which I think a lot of women have, especially in certain categories of core wounds, and what we do at Next Level University, that's this beautiful thing that I'm a part of, is we've kind of been able to group it into 3 main buckets. And then of course there's nuances and everyone's different within those buckets. But one of them is, and again, these titles are a grouping, not a something that means something about you, right? So there's defective, unlovable, and unwanted. And defective doesn't mean you're defective. Unlovable doesn't actually mean you're unlovable. This is this unconscious narrative that's running within you. And defectives feel like they're not capable enough. They're not competent enough. So they really value how things look in the external world because they feel that they are not capable in the external world. Now, what you're talking about is going to be in one of these other 2 categories. I deeply feel like you're an unlovable or an unwanted. I can't figure that out just yet. But when something pokes you or something makes you feel not great within yourself, is it because I'm an unlikable, terrible person? Is it because do you look at yourself and be like, oh, it's because I'm the asshole? Of course, I'm going to be the villain in this situation. I feel like it is my fault. So I'm going to take this scenario and I'm going to just try and go and get better behind the scenes and try and do better next time. The unwanted has the same, like a lot of the same feelings and desires and things as the unlovable, but they react really different. So for the unlovables, like I just said, you kind of feel like it's your fault. You're the wrong person. You're in the wrong. So you need to go get better, or you need to go fix this, or you need to glom on to, let's say, your husband. And you know what? I'm going to dim and become less than just to fix this situation so I don't lose love. So we like to dim. I say we because I'm in this category. We like to dim for the sake of other people's emotions, and we like to stay small. Typically, we'll fear success over failure because a lot of our pain is social pain, and we just crave unconditional love at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And we can give unconditional love really easily.
Yeah, because I used to say, like, what really finally unveiled that for me was doing like the podcast and other entrepreneurial stuff, to where I was like, oh, I finally understand what a fear of success is, because whenever what I identified as my narrative was like, well, sure, like I'm pretty good. So like I can start and build anything to be successful. Like I'm not afraid to do that. But I am afraid that I'm not is good enough to keep it going, to sustain long-term success. And like, so but like, what if I get this level of success and then just, being the inherent fuck up that I am, just fuck it all up, and then I got all this public shame. I mean, this is the thoughts that would sit and like spiral. I don't do any of that anymore. But yeah, absolutely, I can resonate with what you're saying, because that was, and every problem used to trace back to my behavior within the problem, because if you triggered me, I didn't handle it well. So either, like, if you were anywhere close to me, I wasn't going to hide how I was feeling, and I didn't do it well. So, I mean, like, people out in the world, I would freeze or fawn because it would be too scary. But like anyone remotely close, like, I'm going to pop off with something shitty or passive aggressive or whatever it was. And so all the focus got to become on my behavior and never what the fuck started it, And so once I got to unraveling that stuff, I was like, yes, sometimes I'm a bitch, and sometimes you're at fault. That was the big thing between my husband and me, is that he's so calm and quiet. So all of the microscopes were on me and my loud ass behavior. And then I was like, okay, you know what? You have a lot of shit to fix too. Not just me. This is not all me. I was righteous in some of these things. I didn't handle it well, but like I had a right to own those experiences because you were being a dick, like he's a super avoidant.
Right, yes, right there. So good for you, because right there, that also says that you're now holding a space of courage and self-worth, that it is not all on you. You'll take ownership for your part, but you're not going to take all of it. So the unhealed, unlovable will take all of it for the sake of everybody else.
Yeah, I definitely did that.
Yeah. And then the third
Because that was
category
easier than confronting someone too.
and
I was
trying to
too
deal
scared.
with
Yeah.
their
Yeah, I couldn't do it.
defensiveness,
Yes.
their
Because that
that
just
right.
made me feel more betrayed, more rejected, more abandoned. Every time someone else got defensive, I was like, oh, right, I forgot I wasn't allowed to have a feeling. My bad. Back to
Yeah.
the regular scheduled programming.
Because it made you actually feel really unseen and that
Mhm.
someone is seeing you not accurately. And when someone doesn't
Yes,
see us,
the
yes,
misunderstood. If you're
yes,
not fucking hearing me and I don't want to talk about it anymore, yes. That's
yes.
my big wound, is feeling invisible, feeling misunderstood.
Yeah. So the unwanteds, it's similar, but they feel not included. They feel very separate from other people. And when they struggle with vulnerability. So they struggle with labels. Like it's hard for them to say after a couple times of hanging out with someone that you are friends. Like that means something to them. So labels really matter to them. And if someone starts to mess around and like start to play games and stuff, whereas the unlovables would try and play the game with them and not get love from this person, the unwanteds have the best boundaries of all time. So much so that it kind of takes them away from things. So they have to heal that. But they instantly just put the wall up and they're like, nope. And they're just so good on their own. They look so good on their own. So they still crave inclusion and love and things, but they don't dim or lessen themselves to get it. They just put the wall up. By themselves. And so I think you're in the same grouping as me. And obviously our nuances are going to be a little bit different and all of these things, but just as a blanket statement of totally macro zoomed out, the unlovable category really struggles when we're not feeling seen, heard, understood, and valued. And it really bothers us when people see us inaccurately.
Yeah. Why does it bother us so much?
Because we love truth. And we do our best to actually live in the truth, even at a detriment to ourselves. We'll take that on all day. And if you're, let's say, arguing with a defective, so this is something that really helped my husband and I, because I'm an unlovable and he's a defective. And if this is the truth, let's say, the center is the truth, defectives like to live a bit above the truth. They're a little bit delusional above. So they like don't actually like the truth to be pointed out to them because it makes them feel less than and incapable, and they're trying to live in this delusion that they act more capable than they truly feel they are. So the second you point out that gap, which is actual truth of, hey, I feel like you're not showing up in this good way, or hey, you said you were going to do something and then you didn't. And they just like, well, this, and this, and they get really defensive because you're actually pointing out truth.
Yeah, sounds like my husband.
Right. And so you're in the same dynamic as Chris and I. And so if, again, coming back to the truth, defective lives up here. And again, there are no right, wrong, better, or
right.
like
it just is what it is.
You understanding you. And then unlovables actually like to live down here. We like to be less than a little bit and not like we'll dim, even though sometimes we can be so big and vibrant and have all these emotions and we love to communicate and all of these things, but it makes other people uncomfortable, and sometimes they can villainize us, and we kind of like to live down here. But we like to be closer to the truth for the sake of others to live under there. And so when we point out a truth to a defective and they get all miffed about it, they'll try and point that back to us. And because we get miffed about how inaccurate it is, they can only see it through the lens that they can see the world. So they also think you're getting all miffed because it's the truth. When actually you're pissed off because it's so far from the truth. And then you guys start to do this dance.
Yep. Oh my God, that just describes like the first. Well, we just had an anniversary on the 10th, and both of us kind of forgot until like late morning. I was like, oh shit, today's our anniversary. And so then we were doing the math because I never can say quickly how long we've been married, because I can say how long we've been together, but the marriage, I like have to add fingers. And so I was like, oh, 13 years this year, because this is my second marriage. And we were kind of reminiscing just like what those first, 15 years together looked like. And it's been such a gift for us to chill the hell out and like not just be like holding each other accountable all the time. And, like, I think that's where I've evolved, is just like, there really should be much less expectation placed on others. Like, and that's really my struggle, is the expectation and how when an expectation is not met, it feels for me. Because you're right, I do it used to mean because you didn't prioritize me, you didn't care about me, you don't love me very obviously, or you wouldn't have forgotten that. Okay. But I mean, I was raised by a narcissist grandma who that was everything she was programming me to believe, is that everybody's behavior is about you. Yes. And not them. So, I mean, if I didn't vacuum in the way that she wanted me to, I was very clearly communicating to her loudly that I don't respect her. I don't, feel the eternal debt of gratitude that she wants me to feel for raising me, or love her, or think she's good enough. I mean, those were things that she said all the time. So, and then the whole actions speak louder than words. Yes. And people's behavior isn't about you. So once I got to that place, that's the part I unravel a lot, is where I'm like, okay, is this an expectation? Is this a need I really could meet for myself, but I'm afraid that I can't? Because the not enough narrative happens a lot. Like, I would freak the fuck out when he would go out of town, because I'd be like, but like, I can't raise these kids on my own for 2 days. What? Like, what am I supposed to do? Like, just, well, okay, I guess. And then it always goes so fine. But that never told me you are enough. It was just a fluke. It was just because I was on my best behavior and, on my A game. Like, no, honey, it's because you are enough. And that's the thing I'm still working through now. Currently, I hit the wall with that one a lot, where I'm like, is this a sneaky way where I feel not enough? Because it's not like my brain's going, you're not enough, so loud that I can hear that that's what I'm telling myself,
No, it shows up in really sneaky ways. It's not very obvious. And the more you get into self-awareness and you grow and you're doing all these incredible things, the sneakier it gets. Seriously? Some of them, the first like superficial ones are pretty loud and obvious. And as soon as you point it out, you're like, oh, it's that. Mm-hmm. And then as you uncover, they get deeper and harder and more. They're more a part of you than the superficial stuff. So it's harder to work on, to accept, to grow through. And so it gets a little more subtle as you get more aware of it and as you get into those layers. And so, yeah, just having the awareness is really important. And just like, hey, this didn't go the way I wanted to. I'm not sure how I'm feeling about this. All of these things, get curious all the time. Curiosity is a superpower. Mm-hmm. Oh, is this maybe tied to another layer of self-worth? Am I maybe not showing up for myself here because of my low self-worth, or because of, so everyone has two columns, self-belief, self-worth, two different things. Self-belief is what we feel we're capable of externally showing up in the world. So when you were talking about how, okay, I can build this podcast, I can build this thing. It's like, that's you having high self-belief. And then you saying, but I don't know if I can sustain it. I don't know what that's going to look like along the way. Or if that's you talking about your worth.
Yeah.
So you have higher self-belief than self-worth, which is pretty not only standard throughout our community. It's very rare in our community to find the opposite. We attract people who have ambition, but have low self-worth and need support in that. You also fit like the unlovable category. That's very on brand for unlovables as well. We feel very capable, but we're not worthy because we suck.
Yeah. Yeah. I could if I wasn't such a piece of shit.
Right? If I wasn't such a shitty human, I would just be so great. Like, no, it's like, it's that. And so even understanding those two things, because like I said, that internal world and that external world are always going to show up in some way. So these are another example of those 2 feet. And where are you walking in circles? Because people can believe in themselves all day, and they can build and double down on that self-belief by keeping the promises they make to themselves, by showing up for themselves, getting their to-do list done, go tackle. But you will hit the wall in what you are capable of, or the ceiling even, if you don't address the self-worth, because that will come and bite you in the ass at some point if you're not addressing the level of worthiness you feel. Mm-hmm. And we have a framework, right? We have a framework for that. So to build self-belief, it's literally just keeping the promises you make to yourself and then self-assigning that you do. So it's just 3 steps: state, prove, and self-assign. Say you're going to do the thing, and then build it into your identity by accepting or celebrating or just acknowledging that you did this thing without the low self-worth coming in and being like, oh, but you could have done that better. You should have done more. Like, I love using laundry as an example. We all do laundry. I say I'm going to do the laundry. I do the laundry. but I'm not going to celebrate or self-assign that I did this thing today because, oh, you know what? I'm a stay-at-home mom. I should be doing the laundry, and I should have done it better, and I should have done more, and I probably should have folded it, and I blah, 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 blah. All of these things. You know what? You said you were going to do the laundry, and you fucking got it done.
Mm-hmm.
Own that. Allow that, because I love using laundry and simple things like daily things like that as an example, because most women especially are going to talk themselves out of feeling good about what they accomplish in a day because it's just little day-to-day things. But
Well, and it wasn't everything on my to-do list in the house.
That's
That's
right.
what used to get me. I wouldn't even start the to-do list unless I knew I had enough time to deep clean the entire house.
That's right. And so then you're missing out on that self-assigning of, you know what, I had these 10 things on my list today, but you know what, that was a little delusionally optimistic, but I got 5 of those things done. Heck yes.
Yeah. I
Because
think I
as
made the most
mothers-
progress in my worth when I could get to that place.
Yes, because as mothers and things too, our lives are very reactive sometimes. We would love to be as proactive as possible, but with a household, with pets, with kids, with spouses, like reactive things come up. And so, yeah, our to-do list isn't this thing that needs to run our life, but it's nice to have. And as we check things off, make sure you hit that into your identity every time you do. And that's going to slowly build self-belief in your unconscious mind.
Yeah.
Self-worth is this whole other category, but what's really beautiful is I want you to picture a pyramid, and there's 5 layers in this pyramid, and the base of this pyramid is actually connected to self-belief. It's keeping the promises you make to yourself. So they're tied in there to both. It's a really important skill to develop and something that you really want to learn to embrace and embody in your life, because the big promises, the small promises, they all matter, but the small ones you can do every day, like, let's start there. So
Yeah.
promises you can make to yourself is the foundation of self-worth. The next one is learning to hold healthy and proper boundaries. And that one is really tough for certain people. For the unwanteds, it's really easy. They're like, oh yeah, I can just put that wall up all day. F all of you. For the unlovables, we don't even have the skills to have boundaries initially.
Mhm.
So boundaries are really important for people who people please, like to mold to other people, are such martyrs. They'll do everything at the expense of themselves for other people. Okay. So that's hitting you in the self-worth.
Yeah.
Even though you can justify it as, no, I'm just a really good person. I show up for everybody. I can handle it. I can handle it. You can't. You're going to burn and crash down to the ground at some point. So we need to learn to hold healthy boundaries. And what I'm seeing so much out there is people losing their shit about people not respecting their boundaries, when in reality, they're not setting proper boundaries. They're setting rules and trying to dictate other people. And
right. That was a struggle I had.
Oh, we can't control other people as much as we would love to be able to do that. We literally can't. So if you and I are in a debate and it starts getting heated and you start raising your voice at me and maybe calling me a name or two, and I say, hey, you can't speak to me that way, knock it off. You kind of still can. What am I going to do? Going to come over there and put my hand over your mouth and hope you stop talking? I can't control that. So that's me trying to set a rule, and then I get mad when you don't respect it. Well, I can't control you. That's you putting an expectation out, right? And it not being met. A proper boundary controls you. It controls the self. So if I'm holding a proper boundary, same scenario, I say, hey, if you continue to speak to me that way and raise your voice at me and choose to call me names, I am going to choose to leave this conversation. That is something I have control in. And the more you can start setting those healthy boundaries and practice on people that aren't as close to you, practice on people it doesn't matter as much, because it's actually really hard to do it with the people that matter most to you, like our spouses and things like that.
Right.
So it feels scary to do that initially with the people you love, especially if you're scared to lose love from people like the unlovables are. Practice with random people that you don't give a shit about as much.
Right.
And then build it closer to home.
Yeah, because this is the thing, is that boundaries did used to be a real big struggle for me. But the last piece that I'm really finding hard is boundaries with my children who are older. My 22-year-old moved home in August to go back to school, and then my middle kid just turned 18. And like, he's graduating this year and stuff. So I feel okay not setting as firm of boundaries with him, but like with my 22-year-old, having to learn how to ask him to be an adult in this household and to take on some responsibility was really hard for me, because most of my shame really centered around myself as a mom and all the mistakes I've made as a parent. And it hits that, unlovable place pretty hard because it's the only thing I really cared about being good at ever and doing it better. And, all the things that we say to ourselves when we had shit parents. And I was like, why am I having trouble asking him to pick up after himself in the bathroom? So I've been working through it's very slow because this is the thing that I'm just like having a lot of trouble letting go of. And just little things like mentioning dishes, but I don't want to do anything passive aggressive. So I don't, but that was a real big, prior version of me tactic, was to just hint at somebody and hope they would pick it up because I was too afraid to ask. And that was something that my husband used to complain about a lot. And I was like, I know, but it really is scary to ask. Like, you could say no, and that feels really scary to me. But like my oldest, I mean, he can be an ass, and he's a male, and I have suffered abuse in my childhood. So if he gets emotional about something, he has a deep voice. Like, like those things really, that's stuff that will still affect me pretty quickly. And I mean, I know how to work through it and whatever, but he doesn't even have to be yelling at me. But if he's speaking with emotion, I'm like, oh, I'm uncomfortable. I don't feel safe. And so I have to exit a lot of conversations just really quickly to go like, chill. It doesn't even have to be about me that he's being emotional about, and I'm uncomfortable. But, we're working through all that. But it is like an area where I've identified like, oh, you have real trouble setting boundaries with your kids. And not in a way that's like, that was sneaky because, I mean, I'm pretty firm. Like, I'm going to be really sweet and loving to a point, and then I'm going to let you know that like I'm not kidding. And so get your shit together, but we don't have to get to that place a lot. But like, if I do, I'm not afraid to, but like, I don't want to ask you to pick up the fucking towel you left on the bathroom floor, or do you need all these cotton balls? Like just all the things. It's a weird dynamic for me because I couldn't identify that I was struggling in that area before. And it does totally lead back to worth, because if I felt worthy as a mother, I would have no problem being like, boo, you better get your shit together and pick up the, but I'll take forever to even have the conversation because I'm so uncomfortable. Uncomfortable.
Yeah. And even, I mean, children are closer to home sometimes than our spouses, right? These are human beings that grew in our bodies.
Yeah,
so
they are very much a part of me. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is one to just start practicing baby steps with.
It's tiny little toddler steps. Like every day I'm like, maybe today I'll have this conversation.
And it's better to do it in these small steps because then your nervous system regulates with you along the way.
Yeah, you're so right.
Instead of you going from 0 to 10, I've never set a boundary before, to this level 10 boundary, your body's going to freak out. You are going to feel so unsafe doing that. And so it's really important to honor that process as well. Like, let it be small and sustainable. Let it take time so that it becomes an actual part of you, instead of just something you tried one time and it went terribly and you're like, oh, this isn't for me.
Yeah. True. I can't tell you. I mean, that was the whole thing before anyway, right? Like, I would always, I swear I just said this on the show like 2 weeks ago, that I'll be honest, I would still rather resolve a problem internally than to ever have a fucking conversation with someone about my feelings. Like, still to this day, because what I realized is that I surrounded myself with people who were a reflection of me, and they were all emotionally unavailable and really unintelligent with their emotions. Mm-hmm. And so still to this day, I have one friend that I feel safe to say, I don't like the way this was done. I don't like the way I felt when that happened. One person that I can say that to. I can say it to my husband too, but like, that's it. And I know a lot of people, you know what I mean? So like, I've gotten a lot of evidence that it isn't safe to say it. And I'm just learning that, like, what my response to all of that should be. So I'm working through that. But damn it, if I can just figure out how I was just falling short in some way and fix that part. And even so much that sometimes I'll lean into some delusion about like, we're all just doing our best, and maybe it's fine, but that, like, you know, maybe that's acceptance. Like, and I really do have to get to a place where I'm like, and you're allowed to say, I don't like the way that feels. But I was told I was too sensitive, like my entire childhood, early adulthood. So that was a wound that I had to work through, where it's like, am I too sensitive, or are you being a bitch? I don't know. I think you're being kind of bitchy right now, and that the way I'm feeling's a little bit justified. But I had to justify my entire existence. So, like, continuing to feel like I have to justify my experiences pisses me off. Like, I would rather just not have the conversation. And this is why I hardly talk to anyone outside of what we're doing anymore, because I just recognize that I did try, like, with close people. I did try, and I was met with the same feedback. And so I'm like, I don't know, man. I just think I don't need to be around you, you know? And that's just what I had to do.
That's you starting to build self-worth as well. Yes. And that's a huge pain point for a lot of people, especially in the unlovable category, is constantly having to justify. So that's a huge part of my journey, and my self-worth journey has been to stop justifying why I feel a certain way, why your actions upset me, because they did.
They just did.
If you want to explore that with me, great, but I'm not going to chase you around and try and justify why you made me feel a certain way or how this action, like, so justification is really important to watch for. So the second you stop justifying and just start owning, it changes the dynamic of the relationships. As you start setting boundaries and just start owning those boundaries, it is going to ruffle feathers in your relationships, but it is going to show you what relationships are worth holding on to and which ones are not.
Yeah, because somebody can be a really good person, like fundamentally to their core, they love people, they're doing their very best, and they can still be somebody unsafe, because if you can't go to them and say, I felt hurt, even taking all of the accountability on myself to say, I'm not saying this is your fault, but this hit me in that space where I'll feel rejected, or I felt abandoned, or I felt betrayed or neglected. I'm not even asking you to take accountability for my response. I'm asking you to hold me in this moment to say, that fucking sucks that that's how you felt. I'm so sorry, because that is definitely not what I meant. Instead of being incredibly defensive, like, and rude, and then attacking me because I had a feeling. I think that was the most disheartening thing, was like, I did it perfectly. Like, I did it exactly how I was supposed to. And yet still I'm being rejected and being told I'm too sensitive, in essence, you know?
And the more you do that, though, when you can sit very centered and be like, no, I showed up to that scenario in integrity, that can give you some peace. And it can allow you to be like, okay, then the rest of it is actually on them. And that's not on me now. I showed up for my half of it. I showed up with integrity. I showed up with truth and honesty and good communication. And I was still met with attack, defensiveness. Now that's on them.
Yeah. Because you do have to create safety for people to be vulnerable. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not always safe either. Like with my spouse, like other people, I mean, I can sit there and, I mean, hello, fawn is my, you know, like freeze and fawn are my natural instinct with other people. So like, I can sit there and pretend to be just fine and say all the right things and then process it after. So like, I'm not going to meet them with that kind of attitude. But like, you know, my husband, he has zero safety if he's trying to express something at the wrong time. I mean, you got to schedule those meetings, honey. I got to know something's coming. But honestly, that was the first boundary that I set with my adult children, was like, you have every right to talk to me about your experience as my child. You do. You have a right to tell me where I fucked up and everything, but you don't have a right to be a bitch about it. You don't have a right to just throw out shitty little comments to me whenever you're in a fucking bad mood. Like, I don't deserve that. I do deserve love and respect.
Yeah.
So if you want to have those conversations with me, you have to schedule it. You're not allowed to just you're having a bad morning and it's all my fault because I'm the worst mom in the world. And now you're going to vomit on me everything I've ever done wrong to make you feel like a piece of shit in this moment. Hey, I'll take my fair share. I know I fucked up a lot. So like, I'll take it, but not at fucking 8:30 in the morning when I haven't even had coffee, you know? I was like, no. And so it felt like I thought that to myself over and over. And I finally said, hey, I'm always willing to sit with you and hear you. Always. I've told you that your whole life, that was the one thing I wasn't going to do, is not be willing to hear you. But I'm a human with feelings too, and my experience matters too. And so those conversations, I have to know they're coming. They have to be scheduled. They have to be respectful. You have to deliver it. Be emotional, be even a little shitty, but like, you got to try. You got to try to not just throw a knife at my face, you know?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what it felt like, was just, which I understood. I mean, these kids are fucking me, you know, like, I get it. I know why you're doing it, but also I felt my worth increase in those moments, because I was like, no, I do deserve better than that, because for so long I just lived with the narrative that I was a shitty mom. So I deserved it.
Yes. Yes. And so you're not only showing up for your self-worth, you're teaching your kids to do the same. And yeah, it's messy.
Yeah.
And there's so much gunk in it. We have a saying in our house: it's okay to be mad. It's not okay to be mean.
Mm-hmm.
My kids are younger. My oldest is 12 now, but, and my youngest is turning 10, but
I have a 10-year-old.
Oh, nice. It's those narratives, right? Like, honey, you can be angry at mommy. You can be frustrated at mommy. And I want to hear that. I do. I want to hear that and create a safe space for you, especially when you're raising males. You want them to have a broader emotional scope than just anger.
Yeah.
So that's the saying. It's okay. You can be frustrated. You can be angry, but communicate that with me. Don't just be mean.
Yeah, don't just say shitty stuff just for the sake of saying shitty stuff to communicate to me that you're mad, but like, you're not actually saying, I don't like that you did that.
Yeah. Yeah. So boundaries, right? Practice small, sustainable. You're not going to throw yourself from your comfort zone into the anxiety zone. We want to stick in the growth zone that's just outside the comfort zone. And we're going to expand that comfort zone with small, sustainable things, because how you show up in these situations is going to show you that it's either safe or not. It's going to show your nervous system whether it's safe for you or not. So baby steps in that, right? We don't want to slingshot ourselves out into these new experiences. Again, that's not sexy to say.
Right. It's not going to be a best-selling book. Yeah.
Right? It's going to be more sustainable, which is going to keep it more successful for you long-term. Okay. So the next one is actually social courage, and those two go hand in hand. It takes a lot of courage to set boundaries, but it also takes boundaries to increase your courage. And especially for people who are people pleasers, perfectionists, and all of these things, it's really hard for us to have what's called social courage, where we can show up authentically ourselves, where we can speak our truth yes, and especially when we do it respectfully and truthfully and in integrity. But we want to share our truth with people. Hey, that didn't sit well with me. Hey, well, actually, this is my opinion on this, and I'm not going to judge you for mine, but you can't judge me for like yours, like all these things. I said that backwards. Yours, mine.
I got it. Yeah.
It's how can you begin to show up more and more authentically yourself? How can you begin to have social courage in situations where you don't dim, you don't fawn, you don't do things just to appease other people because you're scared of losing the relationship and you're scared of losing love? Because at the end of the day, if you can't show up authentically yourself in a relationship, that relationship is not meant for you. It means they're benefiting from you being less than, and now they can't take it.
Absolutely.
So when they benefit from you being less than, and you start increasing your worth, and they start getting all ruffled about it, obviously give them a chance, communicate that with them. Hey, I'm noticing this, and they'll blame you. They'll blame the thing you're doing. Oh, well, you've changed since the podcast. Yes, we're supposed to. We're supposed to change and grow and evolve. Come with me.
Yeah.
Let's go together. But if not, like, go away. Social courage. It's a big one. It's tough, but learning to not only show up authentically yourself and what that means to you yourself, but again, starting to do it in social situations. The next one is actually investing in yourself. And when I say this, a lot of women's minds instantly go to, oh, well, I can't afford going to the spa regularly. I can't go on these retreat weekends and all of these things. Not most of us can. If you can, obviously go. Do that.
Yeah, right. Do what you can. Yeah.
Right. But it's more about the day to day. Again, that small, sustainable deposit into the bank every day. That whole saying that 7 apples on Sunday is not as good as 1 apple a day. Truth. Again, not as sexy, but that is so true. So what are you doing every day to invest in yourself? And again, you're going to think, well, I don't have time. I don't have all these things. It's not about the elaborateness of this thing. It's the intention. And so the intention of taking a moment to invest in myself every day, someone listening to this podcast right now is them putting time and energy into expanding their brains, their minds, their emotional intelligence, and investing in themselves. Investing in yourself can be free. It doesn't
Yeah.
need to be monetary. It can be energy. It can be time, anything like that. So where are you not allowing these little things that you can do for yourself, or maybe are already doing, but you're not having the intention of it being an investment into you,
Right.
into a deposit into your self-worth, expanding your value, yourself in all of these areas. And so listening to a podcast, listening to an audiobook while you do the dishes, while you do the laundry, maybe you're going to sit down and make yourself a really nice cup of tea or coffee. I'm a tea drinker, or coffee, and you're going to sit and you're going to drink it while it's hot. You're not going to get caught up in doing all of these other things until you microwave your tea or coffee 6 times. No, you're going to sit down and enjoy this one while it's hot. And it's only going to take a few minutes. That's been an established practice in my house for so long. My kids know that they can come and sit with me and be with me during that cup of tea. I mean, I have tea throughout the whole day, but I have one where I'm very specific about this.
Yeah.
And they'll come, they'll sit with me, they'll be with me, but they know I'm not going to get up and answer to their every whim and do all of these things until I've had my nice hot cup of tea.
Yeah.
That's an investment into my self-worth. It doesn't take a lot of time. It doesn't cost a lot of money. Granted, my mug and tea collection is extensive, and we don't want to totally do the math on the collection and total of that. It's daunting, but it's that though. Little intentional moments. It's 5 extra minutes in the shower. It's an extra step in your skincare sometimes. It's moments for you dedicated intentionally to you. Investing in yourself. And then the top of the pyramid, the tip of the pyramid is comparison. We touched a little bit on this in the beginning. Is comparison is we've all heard comparison is the thief of all joy, but it's only if you're doing it in a detrimental way.
Right.
Comparison can also be very inspiring. It's how are you using it? So we say comparison that is apples to apples. Do not compare with someone who is in a different scenario than you. Compare with someone who is. They have the similar goals, similar values, similar lifestyle, but are maybe ahead of you a little bit, and you get to watch their journey and be inspired by how they're doing it.
Right. How can I learn from them? Yeah.
So I like to use fitness as an example. So for me to look on Instagram and watch this young woman, let's say she's 20, 21, she lives in the city, she has a gym in her building, and she have a 3-hour morning routine where she takes care of herself. She goes and works out for an hour and all of these things. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, I suck. Why aren't I doing those things? For one, I live on a dirt road out in the country in a little tiny town that doesn't even have a gym. I would have to drive 45 minutes to get to the gym. Okay. I homeschool my children. I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom.
Oh my gosh, you are busy.
Entrepreneurial, right? I can't have a 3-hour morning routine right now to dedicate to my fitness and go to the gym. And I'm pushing 40. Not the same. I should not be comparing my life to her. What I should find is another mom who is stepping into her late 30s, going into 40. Maybe she's already 45 and she is fit and she has done this in her 40s all for herself already. And she has children and she maybe has chickens like I do, similar lifestyles, but ahead of me in the journey, so that I can say, oh my gosh, she has found ways to work out at home. So that's what I do. I work out at home because I'm not going to the gym. We love to hike and walk and all of these other things. But when I do weights and stuff, it's all at home, because that is what's more accessible to me. So I have found inspiration in people who are more aligned and true to apples to my lifestyle, instead of me, an apple, comparing to a freaking broccoli. I don't know. It's not the same.
Right. No, I mean, you're exactly right. And even I've been giving myself a little bit of a hard time about not establishing a walking schedule that fit. I'm going to be 45 this summer, and I do a lot of connecting in this way, either through the podcast or through therapy clients. It takes a lot of energy. It really does, because I'm in it, I'm in this 100%. I'm not phoning in these conversations. So it takes a level of energy that it's different than what I used to do, So I was giving myself such a hard time because I'm like, but I really value slow mornings. I really value it so much. I got to where I was like, I don't schedule shit before 10. I don't want to have to talk to somebody before 10, because I never know how I'm going to wake up feeling when I'm almost 45. My body some days is very tired. It would probably feel less tired if I would go ahead and exercise, but I'm trying
to figure out some sweet spot for those things to happen, and I just haven't yet. So, I'm like, it's gonna happen. But you're right, I'm not following anyone around my age doing what I'm doing to be able to get an example. Like, I don't really follow fitness people anymore anyway, but like, I could find somebody in my age range who's also an entrepreneur, who's not going to give me the fucking hustle bro shit. I don't want that. I want to honor every day where my body is. Walking is something I could do every day, but sometimes I'm like, but I want to walk outside, but I get really paranoid walking outside by myself. Anyway.
So that's you finding your consistency sweet spot. So this is a really powerful perspective. We've talked a lot about small, unsexy, sustainable action in this call. And that's where, especially in fitness, if you have never been able to sustainably every day, let's say you wanted to walk, I should be able to walk for an hour every day. Okay, first of all, should is such a shitty word sometimes. Should is like projecting onto yourself all of this crap. So we got to be careful when we're shoulding all over ourselves. But if you have yet to say you want to walk every day for an hour, but you have never been able to do that consistently, then it's not that it's not for you. And I say this to anyone listening who has a goal of any kind. We're just using walking as an example. It's not that it's not for you. It's that you haven't made it sustainable yet to build upon. So I'm talking, how can we have mass amount of humility and start at, well, I've never been able to do it consistently for an hour. What if I started at a half hour? And then even then, if you say, wow, I was not able to do that every day this week. Okay, 20 minutes. Bring it down. Bring it down. Have the humility to bring it down to your starting level, your accurate starting level, and then build. I have people starting at 10 minutes. 10 minutes.
That's I know these things, but I'm still like trying to be perfect. So,
it's a part of that.
Because I'm embarrassed to tell myself I only had time for 10 minutes.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. And so that's when we need to just put that self-judgment on hold and trust in the process of, if I can do this for 10 minutes every day this week and keep that promise I make to myself, I'm going to build my self-belief. I'm going to build my self-worth, and I'm going to build up to that hour. It's like when people say, I usually wake up at 8, but you know what? I want a really long morning routine. So I'm actually going to start waking up at 6 a.m. tomorrow. You're going to fucking die. It's going to take you 3 days to convince yourself that this is not for you. Morning routines are not for me. Absolutely not. It's just because you went from 0 to 10.
Yep, exactly.
0 to 1. Some people need to go from 0 to 0.5, and that is okay.
Exactly.
Learning to be okay with that within yourself. It's like, okay, no, you start at 7:45. Then after a few weeks, move it to 7:30 and build.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to follow my own damn advice about this too, and just get on my damn treadmill for 10 minutes. But I'm always like, but it should be at least 30. It doesn't have to be shit. You'll feel better if you move. Go move. You're fucking swelling. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm going to have to rush you off. I'm like 10 minutes late for a meeting. Thank you so much. This was such a beautiful conversation. I'm really excited for people to hear this. And I will do my best to let you know when it's going to air. You should see it.
Yeah.
I kind of never know until, well, actually Podmatch will force me to figure out the date. So I'll figure it out and you'll see it. But I'm very grateful. Like, this is amazing. And I appreciate it. And I will make sure every link that you have on your profile will be in my show notes.
Yeah. Will you connect with me on social media too? I would love to follow
and
keep supporting your journey. You are such an aligned person. This is wonderful. So I would just love to keep supporting your journey and seeing what you're doing and stay connected. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. I'll go to your links through Podmatch.
Okay.
Awesome. All right.
Okay.
Have a Wednesday. Have a wonderful Wednesday.
Okay. Talk soon. Bye.
Hey, if you have not provided this podcast with a rating, please go do that now. If you find me on social media, you can see my link tree, and it will take you to both Spotify or Apple for you to leave a review and a rating. 5-star, obviously, so much. Okay. Also, on that link tree, you can get to my website, empoweredwithmelissahebner.org, where you can sign up for a one-on-one session with me. I'm calling these guidance sessions because I will utilize my therapeutic background along with tarot and astrological insights, if you're comfy, and guide you to the life that you're in love with. And if none of my current offers are within your budget, please don't hesitate to select the complimentary session option. I created that option as part of a commitment to my community and to access to mental health care. And I want to make sure that people are using that. So feel free to refer that link out to anyone that you want to. It is a one-time only. All of these sessions are like a one-time so that I can make a bigger impact with one-time sessions versus recurring sessions. So you can see my menu on my website, and you will also see workbooks and membership communities available. So I hope you'll check it out.
Emotionally unavailable.
All right, that's it from me. So make sure that you check out the show notes for links. And until next time, let's all just keep swimming.
Emotionally unavailable.
INDEPE and cut.